Yeah, there we go. Good. So, welcome everyone. Are you all still awake? At the end of the day, it's been a long day, but are you enjoying it so far? Yeah? Good, good. That's good. Well, I'm not going to introduce myself. I think you all know me. So what I'm going to talk today about is the Oracle of Delphi, AI and Delphi, of course, but then the programming language Delphi. So we start with the beginning, the Oracle of Delphi, because there was a lot of knowledge. So imagine it's ancient Greece, and you had a burning question, something along the lines of, will I win the next chariot race, or would Zeus be mad if I skip leg day? Something like this. And you want to know where you should go to. Well, one thing you could do is go to the Oracle of Delphi. And after some mystical mumbo-jumbo, you would get an answer that would be probably as clear as mud. But still, fast forward to today, we have AIs, we still have burning questions, and we still get answers that are somewhat clear, sometimes not. So, as I said, agenda for today, some history, some AI stuff, which is not really related to Delphi at the start, but we'll get there, and then combining the two things. So, the Oracle of Delphi. We're going to take a little dive into the history where people were still togas and where consulting an oracle would be thought of a solid decision-making process. It's sort of the ancient version of Google, but with a lot more incense and less accuracy. The Oracle of Delphi was located on a slope of the Mount Parnassus, located in the center of Greece, and it was also the center of the world. If you wanted to get some more knowledge, you had to go to the Oracle of Delphi. Now, how did the Oracle work? It was quite easy. Usually the Oracle, which was a girl or a woman, would sit in the center of the temple. She was also called the Pythia, and she was sitting there on a stool on top of a crack in the earth. And rising from the crack of the earth came some gas, ethylene gas. So it was quite a unique work environment for her. People would line up with a lot of questions, usually waiting for hours before they could ask their query. And again, as I said, after some mystical mumbo-jumbo, you got an answer, but sometimes that wasn't clear, so luckily there were priests at hand, and these priests, they translated her message into a somewhat ambiguous answer. So, if you wanted to get an answer for the oracle, you turned to that. If we fast forward a little bit and go to the Renaissance, for example, you had astrologers, you had alchemists, and they tried to predict the future as well by using some different kind of methods, like star maps or potions. If you go a little bit further again, you'll see that you had data analysts, you got data, and once we got to the digital age, we got computers which could crunch data faster than we could ever think of. And with all this, we could start to predict a little bit more, like stock markets, like consumer behavior, and all these kind of things. So, now in the 21st century, we stand on the shoulders of all this accumulated knowledge. And we got AI capable of making predictions with a lot more accuracy than we ever had before. But we still have questions. We still ask the questions. For example, what's the best route to go to work? what should I wear, or even can you create a presentation for the Delphi Summit, for example. I hope you don't recognize this. This is from AI. So you get a lot of answers, and in a way, AI, and especially generative AI, which I'm talking to in my demo, is sort of the modern Oracle of Delphi. So we turn to this instead of going to a temple. And instead of offering goats or lots of gold, we now have to offer data. I don't know what is more expensive. So, we're going to talk about LLMs, because the AI that we're now all talking about, so that ChatGPT-like AI, are all generative AIs. So that means that behind all this, is usually a large language model, an LLM. And these models are the true powerhouse of AI that you use right now. And they are capable of understanding human knowledge way better than all the AI we had before. So how do they work? Well, it doesn't involve inhaling a lot of these mystical fumes. Usually it involves a lot of deep learning. So the LLMs are based on deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. And as I said, they are trained on vast amounts of data. Usually with these generative AIs, that is text-based data. So you have the web, you have articles, scientific papers, books. It's sort of basically everything in text that you can find of. And with all that training, it allows an AI, and especially these LLMs, to feel more natural. It looks like you're talking to, sometimes talking to a person. So it learns these patterns, the nuances of a language, and it really makes a difference. So, as I said, instead of offering goats, as you had to do when you were consulting an Oracle, we now have to offer sometimes a lot of data. If you use ChatGPT, for example, you type in queries. These queries you type in, these questions, will be used to train the model further. And sometimes that's fine, sometimes not so much, because everything you put in there can be used to train the model, and sometimes you have sensitive data. So to overcome that, you can use a private LLM, a private chat model, let's say, for your own to use for sensitive data. Now, there are lots and lots of these LLMs, of these models. So you have the smaller, really specific ones. You have the large ChatGPT 4-like models, which require a lot of computing power. So it all depends on what you want to do with an AI and with an LLM. So how do you find a good model? There are countless of websites talking about lots of these models. One that I've used a lot is the website Hugging Face. It's a community and a platform to find models, but also training data, open source tools, and lots of resources, all related around these LLMs. Now, I'll give a demo of the website, or I'll open the website later on, but you can filter on your specific needs. So in case you want to have text generation LLM, you can go to there, filter on that, find which LLM you want to use, or which model, I should say, you want to use. But the thing is, you can't simply use every model that's out there, because some of them will be really big. The biggest models you simply can't run on a single machine or a single, especially a laptop. So there are multiple ways of arranging the infrastructure for your private LLM. Of course, you can run it locally. If you have a decent machine, decent GPU, usually you can run a decent model. It's not perfect. It's not the same as ChatGPT 4 or 4.0, but it's good. If you have a laptop, and I'll show you later a demo what's happening if you try to run a somewhat bigger model on a laptop, this won't work. It's simply too slow. You don't have the capacity, you don't have the memory. So then you can opt for a cloud-based private AI. Now, I'm using RunPod. I'll give you a demo later. There are plenty of these services available, so you can just figure out which one suits you. RunPod works really fine. You pay by the minute or the second you run all these LLMs. So if you need a lot of computing power and you can't do this locally, you still can have your private LLM and not give away all your data, because again, that's what you do if you use ChatGPT or you trust them with all your data, but it can be risky. I talked about this already, so I'll go one step further. Now, a model that you download from Hugging Face or from some other website is just a model that is trained on lots of data, but not your own data. So there are multiple ways of making a model your own. And one of them is fine-tuning a model. Fine-tuning a model requires, again, a lot of data, a lot of typed data that you put in, retrain a model, and it'll help a model to be much more tailored to your needs. The other way is retrieval augmented generation. And that means that you add to an existing model a lot of documents that you have, for example, or source files or whatever you have. And a LLM will simply query the documents that you provide. So instead of fine-tuning a new model, you use an existing model, you add some data to that, which is your private data, and the model will use that data to provide better answers. To give an example of that, we've done this with Codelex as well. If you ask, so Codelex is a low-code tool, I will show you a little bit of that later. If you ask a model just whatever there is about Codelex, like what kind of activities there are, how should I start a service, or how does the whole concept work, usually it won't tell me if you have a general model, because simply they don't know what it is. The model is trained on data that is older, it doesn't have all the details of Codelex. Now, if with RAG, with Retrieval Augmented Generation, you can simply say, okay, here's my Codelex guide. So this is an 80 pages document of how Codelex works and how you can use it. And the AI will use that to generate an answer based on the data that's in there, without having to train all your whole model again. So it saves a lot of time, and it's a good way of adding your own things to your private language model. So once we have this LLM running somewhere, it doesn't really matter. Of course, we want to use Delphi to communicate with the LLM and integrate it in whatever application you have, or in Delphi itself, as I will show you right now. So, let me first show you what will happen. Let's change this a bit. Try to increase the font a bit. There you go. Is this readable from the back? Yeah, good. As I've said, I used Ollama for running a local model. So Ollama is a service that you can install on your own computer. It works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And with that, you can load a model that you can use to query. Now, I've installed it here on my laptop, so just to show you what it does if you want to run this locally. So I have here a couple models, and as you can see, the size depends, because the size should fit, ideally should fit in the size of your memory of your GPU. Now, I don't have one here, so it will be slow. let's say I pick this one, run by 3. Now what it does, it loads the model in memory, in the memory I have here, and once it's done that, I can just query. So let's say hello world as an example. Now you can see the speed. It works, and it's not a fast laptop. It's an okay laptop, but it's not the fastest out there. And you can see a small model is sort of okay. It gives me answers, but it's not usable. It's simply too slow to work with this. Now it's generating Python code, so I think I should better break this. I could say write a Delphi example. That's better. Example of hello world program. Now, again, probably it will work. Probably you don't like the code, but that's something we'll see. At least it knows that it's a rapid development or application development language. And it has Embarcadero, so it's not too old. Not showing Borland. Well, while this is generating, let me go to, what did it say? Open the Delphi IDE. Yeah. Let me go to here and do the same, but then online. Because as I've said, my laptop is too slow, so I use now RunPod as a cloud-based service where I can run my own large language models. Now, it works quite easy. You can deploy a pod, as they call it. You have to configure a couple of things, and depending on what you choose, you pay more or less. So for a decent GPU, you pay, what is it, less than $1 an hour, which still is expensive if you count this all up and keep it running full time. So it's more cheap to invest in your own hardware, but you could. So once you've done that, so let me pick one. You can here pick a template where you can start with. So I don't know if you saw that, but I use the Ollama template here, which will serve sort of as a intermediate between the interface and the model I'm running. But yeah, you could run, even if you wanted to, you could run quite expensive models with lots and lots of memory. I won't do that right now, so I have one already running. No, it's not running, so I'll boot it up using an RTX graphic processor. So let me see what it does here. Okay. Well, you see the speed. It's still thinking, okay, how do I write a console application? Let me break this one and stop this one. Bye. So now I want to show you what a bigger model would look like and would work in on a RTX 4090, which is expensive GPU, but still, you could run this in the cloud or locally. And once I've done that, I want to go to Delphi and then connect everything together. But let's just have a look here. So while we're waiting on this, let me show you very quickly the Ollama interface. So, or not the interface, the website. So Ollama is just a way to run large language models, as we've talked about, and you have a lot of models that you can pick and choose from that they pre-configured. So again, if you would do a command line and you would say Ollama run and then some other model that is defined in here, it'll simply fetch the model from their website and run the model. So in basically 1 or 2 clicks, you have your own private LLM running, if you have a decent PC. I haven't, so let me see if this one works. It's not ready, so we'll have to wait for a bit. Let's see if it's there already. It is. Okay, so let me start a web terminal just to show you this is sort of the same thing, but then running in the cloud. Okay, so here I can say, write a hello world application in Delphi. Now you'll see the difference, and of course, I'll have to run something first. Ollama, or let me see which models I have. Okay, only the other one, the Ollama 3. So let me run this one. 3. Now it has to load the model, of course, again, and I can say write a Delphi application. Oh, world. Okay. Now you see the difference in speed. This is what you're used to if you use ChatGPT. Now this is not the biggest model. It's just, what was it, 4 gigabytes. But you can run the bigger ones on this as well, and have the same speed as ChatGPT, almost the same functionality, but a lot more private. Now, as I've said, I've configured this RunPod, so let me copy the URL which we're going to use. It was this one. And you can see here that Ollama is not only providing a command line interface to talk to your LLM, but also providing an API you can use. Now, if we have a look at the documentation, you see that they have quite a lot of endpoints which you can use, not only for a chat itself, but also querying the models that you have, or downloading a model, or pushing another model to the cloud. So you can do quite a lot of that. Let's now go to Delphi and to show you that you could actually have a chat client in Delphi running on a private cloud. I'll first try to show that it works. And if it does, I'll go through a couple of these screens to explain how it works. Let me just see if this URL is correct, and if we still have the same model. So if I say hello world in here, and this is a I think I made an error here. As you've seen, I've done that before. Let me run it again. Okay. As you can see, we have here an application that is completely written in Delphi, using, in this case, it's a FireMonkey application, I think, using our own private LLM without sharing any data that we don't want to share. Now, how does it work? As you've expected, we're using the Ollama API. So basically, this is just a REST application which you can use to connect to this LLM. I'll show you first real quick how this works. And I've done this in, I'll show you. I've done this in Codelex, but of course you can do this just with the default REST components if you want as well. Let me close this down. Is it still visible? I think so. Yeah, you can see it. So what we do, we get some settings. We build the body that you have to send to an LLM, and you get a REST response. So I'll just use the API/chat to request, and you get the answers back. Now, I won't go into all the details of how the application works. I just wanted to show this, and I'll share this after the Delphi Summit on GitHub, so you can play around with it and use it for your own, whatever you want, purpose. Just to show you, so this is the code, and the only thing we do is generating a JSON. We push this to the chat, and we get results back. Now, the only thing that you have to be aware of is if you're sending these messages to an LLM, you always want to include all the previous messages as well, because then it knows what we were talking about, and otherwise you'll always get a new reply. So, let me go to here. Is there anything else here that is interesting? Not really, I think. I don't know, how many of you have seen Codelex? Because I'm now showing it, but maybe it's good to talk a little bit about that. Okay, less than half, I think. So I'll spend, what time is it? Yeah, a couple of minutes just talking about Codelex. So you know what it is, and then you know what you're seeing, that it makes sense. So Codelex is a low-code development tool, and a low-code development tool means that you don't write all your code, but you can design your code using these flows. So a flow is basically a visual representation of business logic. So whereas with Delphi, so you can design your application graphical interface and write code, hopefully not at the on-click event, but in a separate class, and not over-engineer things, as we saw with the talk with Jim. But you write your code. With Codelex, you can design your business logic using these flows. So as you can see here, every flow has a, let me find my mouse, a starting point, so the green dot here. You do things, and at the end, you have an endpoint. And what we do with Codelex is make a really easy way available to you to create applications using these activities. So we have here a lot of activities, ranging from building strings, accessing REST operations, to database connectivity, for example. So it's really easy to get data from a database in entities, which you can use in Codelex to do things. And as you've seen here, let me show you this a little bit. What I've done is just dropped a REST component in here, or a REST operation. So if I search in here and drag a REST operation into the flow, you can see I can simply add one, put the URL in here, the content type, body parameters, and in the end, let me delete this one. In the end, it'll generate the source code that you need to do these REST operations. And of course, you could do a lot more. So we have all kinds of these activities available. Now, what I've done here, maybe I'll show you, I still have time, so I'll show you this as well. As you can see here, this is the chat flow. So that means that this specific flow is basically a function that creates the body that I need to send to, in this case, Ollama, get the results back, convert it to objects that I can use. So if you go through the activities that we've created here, you see that we get the settings from another flow somewhere here. So this is, I think, an ini file, if I'm correct. It creates the body that we need to send to Ollama. It converts this to a JSON, because we need to send a string. We have the actual REST operation, and then the JSON to entity. Now this one is very useful, because what you get back from a REST operation is usually a JSON string. But you want to work in Delphi, work with the actual entity. And what we've done here is make this really easy in Codelex. Because what you can do, and I've done that already here, is import your JSON. So, like here. And what Codelex does is it converts this JSON to an entity which you can use. And an entity you can see sort of as a class. So you just paste in your JSON that you, if I go to here and say, what was it? API/tags, for example. Yeah. You'll see here that we get a JSON back from the API, which usually you have to convert. But with Codelex, I could say, okay, I copy this, paste it in here, and I've done that already, so I won't do this again. Fill in an entity name, and it creates all the model information, in this case, that we need to work with. So it adds here the information as entities. And what I do here with this JSON to entity activity is translate the JSON I got back from the REST operation to an actual entity, and to give this back as a result of the flow. Now, how does this work in Delphi? As you can see here, let me see, post a user message, scroll down a bit, restart LSP, see if that helps. No. Doesn't really matter, but there you go. So what I do, just to explain how this works, we get the input text. I post this into the actual form, so the user sent this message. Then I create a thread. I call the chat function in here. Now, how do you do that? Let me show you. So in case I didn't have that here, I could simply say, okay, I want to use this flow, which you can see here, which we built using all these components. I right-click on the chat and say using code. Now, as you can see here, it creates the lines, the actual lines that we need to call this flow. And you see here, it's this is a static flow, so you don't have to create it. It's just a static function. We have to provide 2 parameters, as you can see here. So these are the 2 parameters we need to provide. And Codelex will handle the rest of it. So with one line of code, you could just use this flow. Now, that's what we've done here. So here we have the chat. It returns a message list, and that's the interesting part here. The message list has all the properties from this JSON file we got back, because we did the translation between the JSON we got back and the entity framework that we imported, and we can use everywhere in Delphi. Now, this works, as you see. But the fun thing is, if I have here a Codelex project defined and using the AI we saw earlier, I can also use this in other applications. Now, what I want to do is create, and let me show you the default layout again. Create a plugin in Delphi to talk to this AI we just created, which is our own, which doesn't share any source code, and implemented this in Delphi. Now, what I have here is a simple BPL, and the only thing it does right now, it's triggering if I press a certain keystroke, it I think sends sends back the selected text just to show you that it's working. So what I can do, compile and install this one. So what it does, it captures the Control-Shift F12. So if I say, okay, I select all this, I press the keys, so the Control-Shift F12, it simply gives me back the code I selected. So it works. This is a Delphi plugin installed in Delphi. The fun thing is, you now can connect this to the AI we created earlier and which is still running. And I do this by, for now, connecting to my chatbot Codelex project I had earlier. So what I can do is, again, and I've showed you this before, say, okay, I want to use the chat flow into this project. So again, it creates this line of code. Let me delete my show message. It requires a message text and previous messages. Now, we don't have these, so we don't have the complete chat, it's just querying. But what I do is I can say, for example, my message text will be explain this code. And we'll add the selected text. Now, if we do this the right way, okay, we'll add this for now. Nobody sees the warnings, right? There you go. Wasn't this the right way? Nah. So if we, for example, select now something, press the keys, it will query the LLM we have. Now this will take some time because what we haven't done is limiting the amount of text that we get back. So usually, if you have a somewhat larger LLM, it'll just try to be complete. So I've not made this thread save as, or I've not made it threaded, so it'll just block now my IDE. But in the end, and it'll take some time, hopefully it will explain the right things to us. So usually what you want to do, and we'll have to wait till it comes back. Maybe, I don't know if, that was just to check if everyone was awake. Maybe we'll have to show what we get back, right? Now again, I want to show you something you don't want to do. And this is some, let me see. Something that is a bit ugly. Putting everything after, or in one line. Okay, let's do that again. Now it's blocking the IDE, so I know it's working. There you go. And I don't know if you can read it from the back, but it's saying that it's a Delphi procedure that binds a shortcut to an action. So actually, with a very small model I have, because it's just 4 GB, it's working quite well. It explains what it does. It explains the parameters. It explains what the details are. And basically, once we have our project, with 1 line of code. Now, we can alter this, of course. So this is just to explain something. You could change this to say, okay, complete the following code, which makes it more interesting. So let's say I have here, no, let's first, no, it's okay. I'll just install this one. Now, if we have the classic example, for example, if not query customer.ios do begin. Okay. Let's see if it makes sense. The only thing is, I didn't specify this is Delphi code, so sometimes it thinks it's another language and it just print out garbage. But in this case, it's working. I don't know if you can read it, but it says show message, customer field. There's an error there, I think. So it should be, as we saw, field by name. But also, more importantly, it says query customers.next, which is something, well, we've all been there, I think. You forget. So actually, it knows Delphi, and this is still, remember, this is still a small model. So imagine if you would run a large model. It knows a lot more. But this works. It knows exactly what we want to, what is next. And you could say, okay, what I want to do with this is not showing this, but putting this right into the IDE, because, yeah, for code completion or Copilot, something like a Copilot is, it's nice to see what is next and what you have to do next and what at least an LLM thinks would be the next step of writing code. So again, you can change the query, but you can also say, okay, I want to do this a little bit different. Let me see, because this is multiple lines, so maybe I'll use a string list for this. Lines, the string list that creates. Nope, I don't want to have the ends. I'll say lines.text becomes the select the text. And we simply walk through the lines. Let's use this one for line in lines do. One. And I've had these 2 available. What we do now, right now, is getting back what we've got. Sorry, this should be this one. Now, usually if you query an LLM like this, it'll write a lot of text. That's something we don't want to do. So we should add here something like don't add any comments, just Delphi code. Sure. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It won't compile. Indeed. Let's see if it compiles. It does. Now, I have to be careful because if I'm now asking things, it'll update whatever I have here. So again, if we would do this, so well, not query customer.aof, do. Begin. Now, probably this will work, won't work completely because it will replace the text, yeah, as I saw. So we need to amend this a little bit because it deletes now the text I selected, as you've seen. So what we have to do, of course, is keep the selected text, add this to the lines as well, and then print out the rest of the things here. But as you can see, so this is just an example, and as I've said, I will publish this all in GitHub later. It's a very easy way to work with your own LLM in Delphi, and you can think of lots of other applications that you can use with this technique. So now I've shown you a chat application, I've shown you a Delphi integration, which you can use. But yeah, you can think of all kinds of other solutions for your programs, your customers, to use. And the fun thing is, you don't have to use the OpenAI stuff. You can run your own LLMs. Let me see. I want to spend some time for the Q&A, so I think I'll go back to my presentation. There you go. It won't update. There you go. So, as you've seen, we have quite improved from the Oracle of Delphi to an actual Delphi application that gives answers that you can use in your own application. And I think with these modern LLMs, even the way they are right now, and with the private LLMs, there can be a huge benefit if you use these in your own applications. And I want to spend some time to talk together with you about what you think of could be useful in your own applications. Now, you've seen all this. I hope you've been inspired with the IDEs that you can use. I want to spend the last 10 minutes, I think, for Q&A and to just talk about what is possible, what you think is possible. So, let's do that. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you paying by the minute once you start it, or only for like CPU utilization, or how does that work?
So, well, you can, with RunPod, you can use multiple ways of configuring an LLM. So you could go for the serverless ones, and there you pay per request. So you could set up everything, and then you pay only for requests, and a small fee, I think, to keep it running. In this case, I have a always available LLM running here. So I'll just pay, I don't know what it is, per hour or something. I'm now spending, what is it? Something like $0.7 per hour. So for this one, it's just paying just to have it running. You could go for the serverless again, and then you just pay for what you use. And even if I stop this one, you'll pay a small fee to have this as storage, as cold storage, sort of. So I'll stop this right now. I still have, what is it, $17, but I think that for the demo, it's enough. So yeah, you pay, and it can be quite expensive. So if you want to do a lot of this LLM-related stuff, it can make sense to invest in your own hardware. So then it's a one-off buy, and you can run it locally or on a server, which makes more sense. So I don't know what it is per month, but it can be quite expensive. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
So first I would like to thank to AI for writing this great session. And my question is on those ready-to-use models that you mentioned that can be extended and so on. Is there something that we could use like our private copilot in the company, so to feed our code in internally on our servers, but with a ready-to-use model?
Yeah. So you could go two ways indeed. So with the fine-tuning, I think you need a lot of computing power to train a model, retrain a model, fine-tune it. With this retrieval augmented reality, generation, you can indeed add your own code base. But there's a but. It's not perfect. So still, if you put there a lot of, I think I can see more ways of doing that for like using your application guides, for example, or things that you want to do with the application and adding that. And I think it's not ready to be able to do the same things as Copilot, because that's trained on way more data than we have all available. So it's not the same level. It's getting there, but still you get, and that's the problem with these models that we have there, we have available right now, is that they're all trained not only on the latest Delphi version, but also on all the other Delphi versions, because all the code is there in GitHub, and sometimes the code is not optimal, let's say. So then you have a model that is trained not for the latest version with some code that you don't want to see in your own application. So it's not perfect yet, but it's something that we can all work on.
Yeah, illustration. My question is there also other implementations for not only LLMs, say, for example, Stable Diffusion or other models that can also, as an example, or like plans to do components or adapted to Delphi?
Yeah, it's a good question. So indeed, yeah, not only using LLMs, but also or using the image generation parts of things. Yeah, it's indeed an idea I had. So if you have a look at the application I have here, you'll even see. I think it's not running, of course. The other one, I should say. Oh, it's not sharing. Anyway, doesn't matter. In the application, I already had a picture icon. I don't know if you saw that, but the chat application I showed you had a picture icon, so it's not there yet, but it's relatively easy to use these, for example, RunPod or your local LLM to use image generation. And as long as they have an API, which all of them have, it's really easy to add this to a Delphi application. So it will be there. Not on Monday, but yeah, soon.
I would like to feed all my information that I've collected over the last years about my application, which is provided as PDFs or whatever to my customers. I would like to create a large language model for my documentation for my customers. And I know ChatGPT has this ability, but in this case, every user who wants to use it has to have a ChatGPT account. So my question is there any way that I can, pay for training and learn a model and then stick it anywhere and just implement some, let's call it REST call in my own application so that my customers can use this kind of functionality on our documentation base inside our application?
Yeah, so there's no commercial way of doing that right now, indeed. So you could do this. Will take quite some computing power right now to retrain a model. So there are ways to come around this, but I think for this talk especially, it's a bit too large a topic to completely talk about that. But there are tools to add your own stuff to a existing model, as I said, with this RAG way of doing things. And then you could use indeed your own code base, your own documents, for example, run it on your own cloud without having to give everyone a ChatGPT account or so. Because again, this, as you've seen, this one is running locally or in the cloud, but still a private one. So it doesn't really matter from where you access this. You can simply use it in your own application, and it's easy, relatively easy to add your own data to such a model. As I've said, maybe this is something for another webinar or so, but it's certainly an interesting topic. Yeah. Anyone else a question? Yeah, here.
Is there a conversational LLM, or it will remember the name of variable and so on that you have tell the first time, or you have to send it the whole unit, for example, to know the variables that you have already declared and so on?
Sorry, I didn't get a question completely.
In your example, in the IDE, you make something like Copilot. If you send your little selected text, if you send another time something else, it will remember the first you have sent, or it will just...
Well, in my example I had here right now, indeed, so it won't store the queries or the prompts I sent to the LLM and the results I got back. So, of course, you can change this to keep track of all the communication we had with the LLM, so it learns what we were talking about, and then adding more stuff to it. Right now, in my example, it was just sending out one message, getting the answer back, put it in Delphi, and that was it. But of course, you could change this to add all this information and all the communication that went on, so it learns what we were talking about. So you could think of adding another plugin in Delphi to communicate with your code, for example. So there are lots of ways of doing that. In this demo, it was just a one-off. So sending a message, getting the answer back.
And so the next question, I know you are not Embarcadero, but do you think that Embarcadero is planning to implement some LLM inside the...
I don't know. No, you should ask, I think, Ian, who's here, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, Ian Barker, yeah. So, I have no idea, no. Anyone else? Yeah.
Are there any concerns that you can have concerning the quality of the generated code? Because you can, as a software developer, I feel responsible for the products that I produce. But if I've not written it myself, well, how sure can I be that it will be okay?
It's a good point, because as I've showed, but as you can see as well, is that this model has been trained on a lot of code, which not all of the code I really like, right? So it's not always producing the code that I want. I think there's still a lot to improve on that part. That would involve training a model to give better answers based on the code that we really want to know to have. But again, that involves quite a lot of code that is good, and there's a lot of code out there that's not really that good. So I think you should see it more like a tool to help you understand what's in there, and you can ask questions about the code, let's say, and talking about that. But with the quality of the LLMs right now, I don't see that you simply can ask something and it writes down everything that you've thought of in the right way. I think we're not there yet by a long way, especially for Delphi. because, as I've said, you have so much Delphi code out there, and yeah, it's not all optimal. Maybe we'll get there, but that will take some time, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And just, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Room for one more question? Found here.
Just to add to the previous question, actually I had the same in mind, and I was afraid to ask because I know part of the answer. And just to add to this, there was some research paper that was just published a few weeks ago, I think, where they did some research into the quality of generative AI as it is currently in the field of generating code. And I think they compared AI produced answers compared to like some Stack Overflow answers, and the gist of it was often it sounds promising and it sounds like it is okay, and it was in a quite verbose kind of way, but if you look closer to it, it actually was factually wrong. But the thing is, it was convincingly I mean, it appeared like it was correct. And it was quite funny because earlier you showed that write me a hello world program, and if anyone paid close attention to it, it said, oh, you need to add this messages unit to the users because that is there because it contains the right line. And I think everyone here knows that is completely wrong.
Yeah.
So it's just another tool for our toolbox. But I think the key point to take away is what Jim just said in his session: don't believe it, check for yourself. Yeah. And the danger is that I see is usually you don't ask questions where you actually know the answer. You actually ask questions because you don't know the answer. And then it might feed you information that is wrong, and you find out that it just doesn't compile or doesn't work down the line. So keep in mind, it's just another tool in our big toolbox to use.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. So it's indeed, it's a tool you could use to ask questions about your code and to maybe generate some code. But it's not something that I would blindly rely on. So, although you have to keep in mind, of course, the demo I showed you was a model with I think 4 or 5 gigabytes big. The models that ChatGPT uses right now are 500 or I don't know, 400 times as big as the one I used. So they are way smarter than the one I showed you. And there is still quite a lot of development going on with all the generative AI. So I agree. I think at this point you can't just rely on what it is, but you can use it to ask all kinds of questions that you maybe not know out of the top of your head, but instead of Googling it or going to Stack Overflow, just ask an AI, okay, what exactly did I have to do to get this working? And usually with these kind of hints or tips, you could program way faster than Googling everything and figuring out if the answer you see is the correct one. Because if you add your own code to the question, an AI would already know a little bit of the nuances of the code. So it knows what you were doing, and if you ask questions, you get, usually if you use a big model, and not the one I showed you, you get better answers. Should you completely rely on that? No, but that's the same when you Google or use Stack Overflow. You also have to use your own brain to think, okay, is this the right solution for what I want to do? And in that sense, it's not different between using Stack Overflow or Google or an AI. You still have to be really aware of what it does. And indeed, it sometimes gives very convincing answers that are completely wrong, but so does the internet. So, yeah, I don't know. It can be useful. And keep in mind that there's still a lot of things going on. The developments are going faster and faster. So we simply don't know if the if we still are going exponentially with this, or that it levels out and that we are almost at the top of it. So who knows? If I would know this, then yeah, I would do other things. But it's, yeah, we simply don't know. And with the speed of the developments, we see that it's going faster and faster. But maybe we hit a peak already in a few months, and that's it. We don't know. In the meantime, I think we can use these, especially these private LLMs, to help us, the same as Stack Overflow or Google can help us. And do not rely on this for everything, but just use it, indeed, as you said, as a tool in your toolbox. I think that's it, because the time is up. Thanks.